Hey, it's Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday, and it's June 23rd. This will be our chart lesson for today, and this is going to wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Um, Real quickly, a look at the daily chart here. You can see that it's about 2:35 now, so I'm doing this a little earlier than normal. Usually I do it closer to 4 or 5 o'clock, but I need to get out of here today, so I'm going to go ahead and do this now, and just so we can have a chart lesson up. But it is a little early. This obviously things could change before the day's over, but this is still looking fairly positive here. You can see even though this is an inside bar, it looks like we're going to close much higher today, and maybe we'll even surpass the high of that bar yesterday. It's still an inside bar, but it's looking rather positive. As I stated earlier, my guess is we're at least headed to this midline here, this blue line. Maybe the 21 bar EMA here, and most likely probably all the way to the other side of the channel. Now, whether or not we can go straight up, that's another question. We might just work sideways because this is still fairly congested looking. So we'll just have to see how it goes, but this is a positive sign here today that we're getting some more follow through after yesterday. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to flip over to the 2000 tick chart, and we're going to go through the trades, and I'm going to move through them pretty quickly because I'm real short of time today, and I need to get this. I want to get this done, and I need to get out of here. So let's flip over there and get started on that. As you can see, until late afternoon, this was really kind of a range day with mixed trading. I mean, almost like it was going to be a down day, but until we traded below these overnight lows, and for the most part, we're trading inside this blue channel. We did get outside that to the low side for a little while. There's lots of little small sideways congestion areas in here you got to be real careful with. Um, it's just one of those days where if you can't catch one of these early moves and these trends, there's just probably not a lot of opportunity really. So, but let's zoom in. We'll go through the trades. You can see the big picture here. Let's zoom in. We'll go through the trades and we'll wrap the day up. Again, I'm probably going to rush through these rather quickly because I need to get out of here today. But 7 o'clock came uh, right on this move down here, and we got a little failed second entry long here. Generally, you'd like this to be below the EMA, but we're way overdone here. And when that breaks higher on that second entry right there, guaranteed there's going to be some trap traders. So when it breaks lower right there, I like going short with that. I marked it green because it doesn't set up below the EMA, but that's still a pretty good trap there. And hopefully mostly even newer traders can recognize on that second entry there that if it fails, there's probably going to be trap traders. And you know by how fast that rockets down that those longs there had to exit. And it doesn't go far before we're headed back in the other direction. Unfortunately, there's no real good setup to go long until we get this failure right here. When it broke above, when this green bar broke above this bar right here, that was a failed second entry short. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry. And there's a little bit of a double trap here because it looked like we might go higher and then it breaks lower and turns back up. So you might have had some more people getting short on this big bar down because it's so bearish at first and then it moves the other direction. Closes very bullish. I like going long there. And then at that point, it's pretty obvious we're kind of working sideways. But notice that each of these little channels are working out. This one we got a close outside. It's not real convincing, but when we do get a new low, it's moving up. You get a close outside, new high. You're moving down, you get a close outside, new low. You're moving up, close outside, new high, and moving down, close outside, new low. So every one of these followed through. And if you just drew your short-term, if you just draw your short-term micro trend lines there, trend channels or whatever, it should help keep you on the right side. That's why we draw these. But notice we're working up here. You get a close outside, and you get this failure here. It's just a first entry, but because it's a failure, you could go ahead and take it, and you don't get a second entry, really. So then we're turning down. You get a break, and you get a little trap right there. And when it broke lower, that's technically a second entry short right there. But I like that just for a trap. If it breaks lower, we're probably going to make another, we're going to move down to make that new low for this. But it acts a little bit like a trap there too. So, and then we're just kind of working sideways. We shoot up, we make a double top there. There's actually a triple test. I didn't mark that one because there's not a lot of space there. But if you saw that and you traded as a triple trade or triple test, I wouldn't have a problem with that. This really looked more like the triple test, but it's such a higher high there that you need to wait on the lower high, which comes right here. I don't think I'd wait and go short way down here, but when it came back through here after it had gone higher, uh, I'd probably still drop a limit order closer to that EMA, or you might just go on a sell stop there. It's not a great setup, but if you saw it and you got a way to get in it, you definitely want to take that trade. Then we come back, we make a double top, and again, you might have taken that one. There's a second entry short there, but again, I think you probably ought to wait on, because it's a little congested too. Wait on the second entry or the lower high. But again, if you took this first one, I wouldn't argue with you too much on it. And then, of course, you get the reversal here, so it breaks higher and turns down. Another great place to go short. These are some big bars, so you got to kind of weigh your options here. 24 ticks, 19, 20. I mean, there's some fairly big bars in there. And of course, we run down. And earlier I had the lows around here, but I moved them down as we made these new lows here. You still could have kept them up higher if you wanted, but it seems to fit here with the midlines and all much better. So I did move this line down a little bit. Of course, we bounce. I didn't mark this one either because you really didn't have anything to tell you that this was over yet. You do get a break and a new low. Of course, the one going up, you get a break and new low. I didn't draw it. I probably should have drawn that one, but. And you can see that there. Trend's working up, close outside, new high, lower high, and then failure. And then we run down here, and then we're working higher here. You might have considered this one as well. It's another one you could argue to be green. There's probably a bunch of green ones in here. But I'd wait on the reversal, which comes here. And I'm not as crazy about that one because it is a mixed bar. It closes below the EMA. But if it breaks above there, it'll probably give you a quick scalp. And maybe you'll get a runner, which you end up doing. And this it ends up moving much higher here. And then we're just kind of working sideways. You can't make that. Prices are trying to make a new high, and they can't. But you can't really go short out of there either. Runs down, you get a break, new low, but no setup there. There's a second entry here, but because of the break and new low and how choppy everything is, I wouldn't take that trade right there, that failure, especially from a high way up there, because we may do exactly what prices did, is turn and go the other way. And there's actually a short failure here, but I don't like taking it either. It's because we're just chopping sideways right there. There's some strong resistance there. We end up pushing on up. This channel follows through. And again, we can't get a new high there, and we're just chopping sideways. I don't see anything in there that I like. There's a triple test here. Signal bar is not good enough, though. So you just have to kind of ride that out. And then we run up. Again, we're working sideways. There's a bounce off that trend line, but it's just too congested. And then, of course, finally you get your break. And notice that you get a first entry, second entry, and that's the first close outside that trend line. So that's a pretty good signal bar. There's a higher low here. The reason I marked this one green is because it's just really a little bit early we just came off the high, so it's a possibility this thing could keep going. So, but again, it's a second entry when you're looking for a retest of these highs. So prices could go back to the highs again, especially since early on the highs were much lower across here. And so now that's really the first test of this new high. So prices may try to test that again to make sure it's going to hold. And so when you get the second entry and high or low right there, I like going long. Actually, I take that back. It's just a first entry because we do make a new high here, but it's a high or low just coming off that low right there. We run up. There's a lower high here, but again, it's a little congested. Signal bar is not real good. If you traded it when it broke higher and turned and as an engulfing bar and went by right there, I'd probably be all right with that. But I don't think I'd go short here with that much TM. And somebody asked me today, do you wait for the signal bar to close or can you enter any time? Well, you should wait for it to close unless it's an engulfing bar, and then you need to be real careful. And if you're not real experienced, just skip the trade if it's an engulfing bar, because you really need to know what you're doing. And so then you get a failure here. Notice the new high, first entry, second entry, and it fails. And you can see it trap people. And once the run all the stops, and it runs back higher again. So it's just one of those kind of days where there's no real direction in this market. It's just they're just creating traps and reversing the market, and you got to draw these lines. You have to do it, and you have to draw your trend channel lines or whatever, your micro trends, and you can see there's one right there. You get a break and new low, and then this is actually, notice now you got a new high here, so you'd want to draw that, and then there's another one that runs up right here, and notice you don't get a new high on here, but you try to go higher once, twice, and it fails. Look how bearish. If it breaks below that, you want to go with it. Then you get a first entry, second entry, big bearish bar. The only reason I marked this one green, because it does confirm that trend line, is because it's really kind of congested. So it's a little bit iffy going short into that, but it finally looks like prices are going to try to go lower there. So maybe you take that one. I marked it green. Here's your one back to the trend line, but you don't get any break of that one. And the signal bar is really this bar, and it's not a very good signal bar. So you just have to kind of sit tight on that one. There is a lower high here. I don't think I would take that. It's another possibility. You could argue for it to be green again. We run on down. We hit the other side of the channel, kind of chop sideways, and then suddenly we were rallying. And this is a repeat pattern from back up here on this other one. Notice that you don't get a retest of the high, and then you get a failure. It's a repeat pattern very similar to that. And so I like going short there. Notice your new high, try to go higher once, push down, come back, try to go higher twice, it fails. It's also a double test of that kind of support resistance area, and you can see that acting as support first and then resistance. And then boom, you're off to the races. And now you've got a new low in here, and so these are all just first entries, so I don't see anything there that I like, that I'd be willing to take. And then we bounce, and again, you're just chopping sideways. Now we do have a channel going up here. We get a break and a new high, and then a lower high. And this, even though this looks a little sideways, we've kind of, looks like maybe we've broken out of that. So this is probably worth considering right here. You've got plenty of room down to the last low here, which is the one you'd be worried about. That's exactly where we go to. Notice we close back inside there, so then it's pretty obvious this channel's still in play, and I don't think I'd go long there, and I don't see any more shorts until we break out. We finally bounce, and then we're just working sideways. But this is a channel. Made a low, test it once, test it twice, nice signal bar, you got room to get out. You're still chopping sideways. I'd probably wait on a lower high on this one. You might take that trade. You do get a lower high, but there's not room to scalp out. And then, of course, you're bouncing here. And again, that's right off that support with a room to get out. So I like going long there. It takes this one a minute, but it works out. No runners or anything. And then we just take off to the high side. Then we kind of chop sideways. You see a lot of this move, and then you're just chopping sideways. You don't want to be going short here because you got this green channel. And you do get a break and a new low right here at the key entry point, and you also get a triple test across there. So I like going long on that one. Then you get a first entry, second entry, but that signal bar doesn't qualify for a second entry. But if you look, you got a new low and you get a first entry and then a second entry. So that's a failure if it breaks above there. And so maybe you take that one as well. Boom, off it goes. If you want to be real aggressive and trade an engulfing bar, I think that broke higher first and then went down. So if you traded that and you got caught on the engulfing bar, then you have to move your stop down here and wait for this to close and then push it back, put it back one tick below that when it completes. Because otherwise you don't know where this bar is going to end up and you'll get stopped out on what's probably going to be a good trade. So otherwise I'd skip that trade. And that pretty much takes us into 2:30. So I feel like I rushed through that, but I'm sorry, but I got to get out of here. I'm really running short of time. So hope you had a good week. Be careful trading these kind of days. They're a little tougher. If you had a hard day today, don't beat yourself up. This is tougher. So when you start running sideways and it's not real consistent and you got different highs and different lows, about the only thing you can do is try to trade the trends within. And you just didn't get a lot of opportunity for that today. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you have a good weekend. We'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.